The Sunset Strip Diaries, Chapter 16. Blackmail. Not so fun after all. I knew a little of what brought Bertie to Hollywood. Besides her love of adventure and rock music, she had a background story similar to mine. Someone in her family had sexually abused her. From what she explained to me, she actually came forward and told on the person, but the whole thing was covered up and swept under a rug because it was a beloved family member. The parents didn't want to make a big scene, and from that moment on, her life was never the same. She even had the same violent episodes that I had, trying to attack her parents with knives. I didn't know the details as far as the lack of protection, but as the victim I could relate. Feeling like you weren't protected was almost worse than the actual abuse. Abuse may have murdered your soul, but the fact that someone could have helped you and didn't really fucked with you. It made you full of rage. It made you ask, why was I not worth saving? It made you decide you must be a piece of shit, and it made you want to destroy yourself. Bertie's parents seemed to be nice people. Her mother was a tall, blonde Swiss woman, and her father a short, dark-haired businessman, a commodities broker formerly from Manhattan. They were cultured and polite and seemed to have it all, except for when it came to Bertie. They couldn't control her. She told them what she was going to do, and they kind of bowed to her, like, yes, master. They always looked worried around her, and they never said no to her when I was at her house. They always seemed so guilty, like they were afraid of her telling on them or relapsing into a violent episode. They bought her whatever she wanted, including the very expensive makeup, clothes, and shoes. They appeared to feel badly for not protecting her, even though they were not helping her by giving in to her demands, including driving her down to Hollywood when she couldn't get a ride. Her mother would put on a bathrobe, drive us down there, and drop us off on the street. My own mother still hadn't acknowledged that she let my father stay in the house with us after she suspected he might be a pedophile. It was as if it never happened. My family was quick to paint me as the dramatic problem child whose word could not be trusted, in case I decided to talk about it. All of my partying did little to fix that image. I was tired and broken down. I was bothered staying with my father and became more involved in partying to cover up my uncomfortable feeling. I became increasingly depressed when I was faced with reality each morning. I was attending community college, but I was barely making it. My stomach was always growling, and I was constantly sick. I felt dirty. I longed for the house I grew up in before things turned ugly in my life. I longed for the time when I felt protected and secure, back before my dad got into drugs. I longed to be in my lavender bed full of stuffed animals. I longed to be back playing with the kids in my neighborhood, to be back on beach trips, roasting marshmallows at night. I longed to nuzzle my baby bunnies, to eat cinnamon-sprinkled toast while watching cartoons with my sister. I longed to make paper chains during Christmas time, to dye eggs on Easter with my Dudley Shake-and-Egg kit. Adulthood had been downright horrible. I didn't know why anyone would ever want to grow up. It was the biggest bust, the biggest disappointment. I sat on the bus, looking at the windows of the shops passing me by in the valley. Would it have been better if I had just played it straight? Not looked for adventure, not had curiosity for the city that was Hollywood, not met all of the people I had met, not been influenced by the girls I befriended, not seen the things I had seen? Journal entry, September 28th, 1992. I'm in school and I'm freaking out because this desk is an asshole. Now I'm freaking out because I just wrote that. There's a barrier, well, I guess it's really a table leg, directly to the side of my leg, and I don't like it. If it were on the right side, it would be okay. I'm about to get up and throw this chair and tip over this desk in front of everyone. I feel really restless. I'm annoyed and my nose is twitching. Now I'm in a different class, waiting for it to start. I'm realizing that my eyes are glossed over, and I'm tired. I took pep pills in the morning so I could pay attention, but they didn't work. I think I missed most of the lecture because I started daydreaming. There are a lot of things in my life that I can't let myself think about. I have to stay afloat somehow. Journal entry, September 29th, 1992. I accidentally got fucked up. I didn't mean to. I took some Mexican antibiotics that my dad gave me this morning, along with some other pill, and I didn't realize that they don't mix very well. I feel numb. I hate myself right now. I just got through with my public relations class, and I made 2 people hate me instead of making 2 new friends. I wish it were last year. I had new clothes, a new car, and a job. I had an actual manicure. I was hanging out with Harmony. Now look at me. I'm wearing a t-shirt that smells like BO. I have to take the bus. I have no job. And I'm mingling with the Seattle people. I'm a total loser. My dad is supposed to pick me up from school today in that boat of a car he's borrowing from somewhere. My car's broken down again. I guess I don't care if it's embarrassing. This isn't junior high. A big paper was due today in English 101, and I didn't do it because I didn't understand it. I just started crying when I was trying to do it on my dad's coffee table. I wish I could think more clearly and just figure it out. I just want to get on to the next class and feel better about it. The teacher sort of intimidates me. She's young and pretty and proper and smart. You can tell she just started teaching because she's all serious about it. She has a huge rock on her finger. She probably has this great life. She's never had to deal with people like me. She has no idea how somebody could be distracted or tired, broken or exhausted. You could say it's nerdy, but I normally like sitting in classrooms when the temperature's okay, and having bendy, shiny books with highlighted passages and paper clips marking the pages. I like having a big bag and folders full of papers. I normally like to learn. I have to take the bus today, and I guess it's all right. There are just some things you have to do. I have realized a few things about myself in the past few years. First of all, I have felt uncomfortable writing about the real me. I have another side of me that's been buried. It kind of peeked through the dirt the other day. I was watching an old black and white Hitchcock film in cinema class, and I became sick with longing to be in the past. I wanted to cry. I actually thought to myself, I am from the past, aren't I? I was someone back then, wasn't I? I had to have been. I feel pain sometimes looking at those old movies. It feels like heartbreak when I see detailed old homes like the one in Meet Me in St. Louis. I feel hurt in my heart hearing that big band sort of music. It makes me feel sick because I love it so much. Even the voice inflections in those old movies, the way the women spoke with those breathy, innocent, questioning voices with slightly British accents, it both comforts me and makes me homesick. People wouldn't know this about me, but I love literature. I love old books. I like to read Shakespeare and memorize as much of it as I can. And when I'm alone, I have the urge to do ballet or gymnastics. I like to have balance and form. And I also wish that people still had good manners. Sometimes I make guys kiss my hand, no matter how wild they are. And that is really crazy because the guys today will let a door slam right in your face, and have, to me. I'm torn on what I would want my future to be. I would love to have a conservative, traditional life where I stay home to raise children with a professional husband. But another part of me questions the rules and criticizes everything and would want to work for my own money and not depend on anyone. I don't fix the radio when it starts coming in with static. I often cry when I hear songs by the Beach Boys or Elton John. Namely, I guess that's why they call it the blues, and a few more songs that either I don't know the names of, or I do and I don't want to see them in writing, or I really will cry. I'm attracted to abusive people, women or men. And if the person isn't abusive, you can bet I will end up abusing them. I always see how far I can get in being mean to somebody. I don't like what I look like. I have sinus problems. My ears plug up all the time. I think it's from the dust in this joint. I used to play hopscotch by myself when I was a kid. I strongly believe in God. I'm a very heavy drinker, and most of my friends either drink very heavily or do drugs. I've been taken advantage of many times because I was too drunk to stop it. I think about killing myself a lot. I often go nuts thinking of old childhood memories because it was so nice back then. I love my younger sister Becky more than anything. I don't have nightmares or cavities. I hate to be full, and I like to discipline myself. It's hard to sleep at night. I sit and wait for phone calls. I get obsessed with people, and I can't take a hint sometimes. I settle for less a lot. I have dancer's feet, the bone structure. I'm very scared to die because of what is after death. I always think bugs are crawling on me, and my fingers and my hands lock up a lot. Journal entry, September 30th, 1992. Sorry guys, give me just a second. My mouth tastes like blood again, and I'm getting the chills. I'm sick again. I've been sick since June. I'm on lithium right now, so I will calm down and won't kill myself. It makes you numb. I've never noticed it before. I've been trying to tranquilize myself so I can just be knocked out cold, but now I have to decide to stay awake. I've been thinking about moving to Colorado. I gotta get out of Hollywood before I die. There are less and less people I care about in Hollywood now. I could forget about Leslie. I could forget about Michael and Strange. I could forget Bertie. Maybe I will. I hate it so much when I'm loaded on anything. I hate hearing my heartbeat, feeling blood in my wrists, feeling like scratching people and turning them inside out. I hate moving, and I can't stand still. Can't stand still. You would think I'm a bad person if you heard all of the things I have done throughout my life. I'm not really bad inside. I'm just lost. My mom hurts me constantly. My friends indirectly hurt me in various ways, like when Bertie wanted me to watch her purse out there on Detroit Street. It's a horrible area of Hollywood, a drug neighborhood. I was sitting by myself, sober for once, under a lamp post. I was sitting on a cement wall for a minute, but jumped off when I saw that snails and worms were crawling out of the cracks. Bertie was down the street with a guy named Stevie. I hate that silver purse. I ran into one of the guys I used to know when I was 15 that night. He said he saw me a couple of weeks ago, and I was a real bitch. He said he was saying hello to me, and I was really wired, and my eyes were really red, and I pushed his hand away from me and said, "Fuck you," when he tried to be friendly. I was secretly pleased to hear that I did that because he was somebody who took advantage of me as a young girl. He pushed his way into my home and into my bedroom, and I didn't have the balls to stop him. My mother and my sister were even home when it happened, and no one said or did anything. Fuck him. I hated that horrible party on Detroit Street. It was a far cry from the fun, colorful, happening parties of a few years ago. This party was a bunch of whores, fat girls, and drug addicts. Some were a combination of all three. Most of the girls were openly fiending for speed. They sat around rolling joints instead. They are the jealous types. It makes girls look so bad. I overheard their plots to kill Bertie when they discovered that their precious Stevie, one of maybe two people in their whole Seattle crowd who was attractive, was with her. Bertie had on this stretchy red dress and big soft curls in her hair. She pulled a Yankees jersey over her dress and made out with Stevie on the hood of a car. He kissed her like the old movie stars kiss. I always wanted to be kissed like that. I was jealous. Not on display, though, naturally. She called me the next day and was mad at me for letting her leave the house in that red dress. She said it made her look fat, and if I were a real friend, I would have told her so. They say to be careful how you treat people on the way up, because you will be seeing them again on the way back down. During my heyday, I had ignored that Seattle crowd, treating them with rude and snobby behavior. They remembered that behavior quite well when I was showing up to their parties with Bertie, and they were sure to treat me just as bad, if not worse, than I had treated them. Sometimes they wouldn't even let me in the door, and they almost always called me names. So needless to say, I was starting to get bored. Don't ask me how it happened, but somehow I got the great idea that I should be a femme fatale and try some daring shit like Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. I was lying around thinking, I need to try to put the fear of God into some motherfuckers in this town. I am slipping. I scanned my mental Rolodex, and the first name that popped up was that French piece of shit, Andre. He was Jimmy's good friend and bandmate, who I had made out with, and who had later called me and said he wasn't even attracted to me and that I was a big hoe who seduced him. I didn't like how that conversation ended, and it bugged me that he had gotten away with insulting me like that. I had to destroy him. Well, I decided to call him and try to extort money from him, just for my own entertainment. I had done many things, but I hadn't yet blackmailed someone, and I was itching to do so. So I laid in my bed in a hot pink nightgown with bright purple trim and called Andre. When he answered, I told him he had to give me $50, or I would tell Jimmy we hooked up and ruin his fucking life. He thought I was pathetic. Because it was such a measly amount, he was like, $50? I mean, if you need money that bad, I'll just let you borrow it or give it to you. You're going to blackmail me? He said all this in an accent, by the way, guys, but I can't do it. I really just wanted to humiliate him for telling me he didn't think I was pretty and that I was a huge floozy who seduced him. I was like, yes, motherfucker, you heard me. $50, now pay up. He said he was going to call Jimmy himself and explain things. I was like, oh yeah? Well, that's not going to go over so well, you dumb fuck. We played chicken with each other, both threatening to tell Jimmy. I wasn't prepared to have Andre call my bluff like he did. He must have smelled fear or been able to tell that I hadn't thought out my plan very well. I immediately hung up the phone, called Jimmy, and told on myself. I thought it would be better if he heard my version than whatever Andre would say. Since I was already toast, I took the Frenchman right down with me. Jimmy went ballistic and told Andre that he had to leave their band or Jimmy would. Jimmy was the key player in the group. He had founded it, and he had the connections. Andre was only the drummer in the background with no connections, so it was clear what would happen to the rest of the band if Jimmy left. They would fold. Lo and behold, the band broke up. They had been receiving attention from record labels, were touring with LA Guns, and appeared to be on their way to stardom. The other band members were furious with me. They had worked very hard and were shocked that Jimmy would let it go because of, well, me. I guess it was my fault. Okay, fine, it was my fault. I didn't have to tell on the guy. I felt bad afterward. I tried telling myself, hey, Jimmy cheated on me and betrayed me countless times. Why should I spare his feelings? But the truth was, I really was just being a complete jerk. Andre was going down, and he didn't want to go down alone. He decided to try and take the attention off himself by bringing up something that I had admitted in my drunken stupor at Red Light District. I had been seeing Robbie Black earlier in the year, and Jimmy had recently become close with Robbie because he was painting his drums and doing tattoos for the rest of Alley Cat Scratch. I hadn't been connected with Robbie for several months by that time. I remembered Michael warning me that if I told Jimmy about Robbie and me, they would be very angry with me for screwing everything up. Yeah, I thought. The next day I found many nervous answering machine messages from Robbie. The first message said, "This is Robbie. If you talk to Jimmy, deny everything. If you don't, you'll be really sorry, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to you." I should have thought, bitch, please. What are you going to do? Kill me over some hairband? But I was all scared, biting my nails like a typewriter. Jimmy called me at 3 in the morning, freshly upset about the Andre scandal. He screamed, "Robbie?" Then he started yelling at me and calling me a slut. The next day he barged down the door to Alley Cat's apartment, started to strangle Robbie, tried to kill him. I know, this all sounds very foolishly melodramatic. I knew I had caused the whole chain of events and it could have all been prevented. But at that age, I liked to do crazy things and try out social experiments. I really didn't care who got hurt or what trouble it caused. Things weren't shiny and new and exciting anymore. I had conquered the things I wanted to, and I was looking for some other form of excitement, I guess. I had become careless, and I paid for it socially. That crowd did not want to deal with me much after that. I was too much of a pain in the ass. Journal entry, October 1st, 1992. Well, I can do nothing but continue the horrible saga of my present life. What could possibly happen to me next, I do wonder. I'm sitting in a practically empty cinema class, and 2 other people are talking and deliberately leaving me out of the conversation, but I keep adding my 2 cents regardless. Well, I know never to blackmail anyone again, even though it looks fun and all. So nobody ever speaks to me again. So Jimmy's terribly hurt and extremely angry. Maybe he will feel an ounce of what I felt, hearing that he slept with like 10 different women while dating me. So people will want to kill me. I just won't go out for a while. Journal entry, October 2nd, 1992. I am sitting here watching a show on the media's influence on beauty and how teenage girls are obsessed with their looks and how unrealistic it is. I guess I'm a little obsessed with beauty. I mean, I have to be. It's my bread and butter. It's my way to eat. I can't just survive being the person who loves books and old movies. I've got to project something that really appeals to people who will help me to, survive. I can't depend on my own family. There are lots of little rules and assumptions just being a part of this Hollywood crowd. For instance, if you're walking alone on Sunset in the day, there's no doubt you are whacked on speed. There's absolutely no other reason for you to be out there in the daytime. It's not like New York. You don't just walk around. If you are hanging anywhere near this guy named Anton, you are either on or buying drugs. If you are anywhere on east to Las Palmas and you are without a doubt, then you are without a doubt buying drugs, speed, most likely. Same goes for Detroit Street. If you're on Cherokee, you're buying crack. If you're at Ralph's on Sunset, you're a drunk. If you're at Rock and Roll Denny's on Sunset on any morning, damn it, you're on something because you're still awake from the night before. Everyone will throw that at you. That and the wandering around on Sunset in the afternoon are the two big giveaways. Natalie goes as far as the Mayfair Market to avoid being seen at Ralph's now, so people won't think she's a drunk. And Ralph's is right on her corner. But then again, she's paranoid because she's on speed. Oh, and don't ever eat in public in Hollywood. Christian got jumped for his hamburger one day, and the Wendy's drive-thru is not a good idea since Colette got mugged there. It's on the corner of Detroit Street, no wonder. Yucca is the street on which to score heroin if you're a true loser. If you're around Gazzari's, the Cat House, or FM station, you're a hesher, not good. If you're a dancer and you want to try and work your way out of the Seventh Veil or the Star Strip on La Cienega, you want to get on to better places. I had a hellish day at Natalie's apartment yesterday. I must have heard the word Xanax 2 billion times. She was on coke last night, would not shut up. First we went to the Rainbow, and apparently I bumped straight into Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses by the restrooms. I smacked right into his chest. I didn't even realize or say excuse me. After that, she invited that grody drug dealer, Anton, over to her place. He was doped up on heroin, the prick. He wouldn't stop touching me, and I had to sit on the bastard's lap for a good half an hour to LAX in her little 2-seater car. I told Natalie he was trying to feel me up. She didn't believe me. She said he would never do something like that. Never do something like that. What is this guy, a pillar of morality? Well, I didn't care if she believed me or not. I scooted back into her trunk, and I laid there the whole way home, pouting. Once we were back to her place, he went into the bathroom for like a half an hour, and when he came out there was blood on her towels and Band-Aid wrappers on the floor. His face was so white and bloodless it scared me. He came today and laid on the ground and said he wanted to take a nap. Typical heroin addict. Junkie bastard, and a slob. October 12th, 1992. I took a bus to Birdie's this weekend and we got a ride to Hollywood. She bought speed from some guy for $25. Before that, we went to the Rainbow and asked if they would just let us in, because we were bored. I had just finished chewing a hot dog from AM PM and had a bored look on my face. Birdie slipped away at a soft-serve ice cream in a cup. We didn't care if we got in or not, but it was worth a try. A man behind us heard and said, "I'll pay her way in," to me. A big man in a suit came up behind him and said, "They need ID, this ain't fun and games." And since Birdie didn't have ID, they did not let us in. Mind you, they used to let me in all the time when I was her age, but there must have been a crackdown. We went and hid on the top of a bank building so Birdie could do her drugs. It was really dark up there except for the lights of the Rainbows sign. She was trying to bite a straw in half to snort with. These two random Hesher guys came up to us, and they had a 6-pack. They gave me a beer. I felt all right around them. They were harmless. No style, no makeup, no done hair. I even told them my real name. Birdie took out her calling card to chop lines and then excused herself to go into a corner and snort speed. The guys asked me if I had older brothers. I said, why? They wanted to know how I learned to party so much. I was drinking a Budweiser, for Pete's sake. If they only could have seen me on a regular night with some Jim Beam. We went down to the strip and Bertie found that guy Stevie from the Seattle crowd, and they snorted a bunch more drugs. He seems like a sociopath to me. He has these dead eyes, void of all feeling. Maybe it's the drugs. Anyway, he has this horrible bleached, greasy platinum white hair to his shoulders, and really long black roots showing. He has sort of dark skin, full lips, and a round button nose. He never smiles or talks. I guess he has a cute face, but he looks like such a serial killer it gets in the way. By 3 a.m. we realized everyone was leaving, so we squeezed in a car with some of our guy friends and got dropped off at this lady's house. She let everybody in but Bertie and me. She locked the tall spiked gates, and our friends left us out there. Bertie started getting dizzy, and I took her behind a van, jammed my finger down her throat, and made her vomit, which did not help. As she was laying there all fucked up, she announced that she snorted 3 lines of speed with Stevie. According to Natalie, speed is not like coke. You cannot do lines of it, if you're not used to it especially. It would be way too much. I spent quite a while trying to hold her up, and she eventually fainted. She fell out of my arms and smacked her head on the sidewalk. It was dark and cold, and I did not know where we were. Stevie came outside to check on her, and we were arguing about who should be taking care of her. She woke up and clung to me, and he was mad. He wouldn't go into the house to get me a phone to call for help. He said the lady inside hated Bertie and me, and she would never allow it. I said, screw it, I'm going to scale this fence. I'll get that fucking phone myself. He didn't think I could do it because of the spikes, but I did. Leslie was walking outside and saw me coming toward the door. He put his arms across so I wouldn't go in. He said the lady would be really mad if I went in, but I didn't care. I was like, what's she going to do? There's a girl ODing on her fucking sidewalk. He decided to bring a phone out because he knew he couldn't stop me. The phone didn't work. The bitch probably unplugged it. I climbed back over the fence and slit one of my wrists on a spike by accident. Finally, after a bunch of screaming and yelling, Stevie called Bertie's mom for me. She came and got us, completely unaware of anything. I was wrestling with myself, trying to figure out if Bertie needed to go to the hospital or if she was going to be okay. When I saw her talking and acting normal, I decided to say nothing. The next night, we actually went out again. There were 11 or 12 people crowded in a Jeep with no doors, and we were driving around partying. People were throwing things at us from windows of buildings. One of our friends picked up a brick, threw it at one of the windows, and shattered it. We took off because a bunch of cop cars pulled up. We raided Natalie's apartment and partied there while she slept. Then we fell asleep ourselves, and when we woke up, we were still clutching beers. Oh my gosh, although I have done my fair share of partying, I don't like the road Bertie is starting to go down. She's done heroin with the Seattle girls, and now she's doing speed all the time. It was okay for other Hollywood girls to do, like dancers and hookers. I mean, that didn't surprise or bother me so much. But Bertie isn't like them. She's a sweet girl inside, and I know she has a lot of pain in her heart like I do. I mean, I don't want her to get into something she's not going to be able to get out of. I met a guy around then that seemed like he would be the answer to all of my problems. His name was Presley. He had the look. He wasn't part of my crowd, so no rumors could fly. He told me his hair was naturally dark black because he was Persian. I thought, okay, Persian, nothing wrong with that. He said he heard about me and made a comment that I was breaking up bands left and right and causing fights on the strip. I rolled my eyes, but I was secretly intrigued that he thought I had that much power. I gave him my number. When he called, he was trying way too hard to be the bad boy that he thought I would like. I wasn't having it. We yelled at each other over the phone, and I very often slammed it down in his face. He continuously called back to try to tell me off, but we just went in circles. Here are the words from an actual conversation I recorded in my journal. He said, "Listen to me. Do you want to be with me? Why don't you get your guard down? You think I just want to bang you? I could keep you around and bang you all the time. I'm not a liar. If I say I care about you and think you're different, then I mean it. I'm so tempted just to get you whipped on me and drop you. You are such a headache." And then I said, excuse me, but you'll never get me whipped on you. That will never happen because I won't be whipped on anyone. And then he said, "You want to make a bet? You want to bet that I can't get you whipped?" So stupid, guys. I said, fucking try it. You know what? You think you're so fucking great? Guys like you are a dime a dozen. I can find an asshole like you anywhere. You get me whipped? Good luck. He couldn't talk after that. He got all quiet and he said, well, why don't you let one of those dime a dozen guys talk to you then? This isn't an act, this is my personality and I'm stuck with it. And then I said, why do we have to sit here and see who's cooler than who? Can't you just relax? I can do it, can you? I realized that day that I had become comfortable taking guys down a peg when it was deserved. I didn't flinch, it rolled off my tongue. It was so hard for me to stand up for myself as a young teenager, and so many terrible things happened to me because I could not find that strength. But suddenly, in the midst of all my misery, it was there. It had actually been there for a few years by then. Would I have been able to do it had I not met the girls I met in Hollywood? Probably not. Who knows where I would have been had I not seen women who could stand up for themselves. Sometimes you learn lessons in unlikely places. Another thing I learned from the girls in Hollywood is that I didn't have it as bad as I thought I did. There was always someone who had it worse. A few nights later, I went to Teddy St. John's. We watched videos in his dad's plush house and got drunk. We fell asleep, nothing happened, and he was tossing and turning and jerking and twitching. I could tell he was having nightmares. I tried waking him and couldn't, so I slapped him across the face. He woke up and started talking in a completely normal voice, asking me why I slapped him. I told him why, and he started remembering his dreams. He said there was cocaine on the ground, and he was trying not to touch it, and he wasn't supposed to be hanging out with me because he was betraying Jimmy. I ditched him in the morning while he slept, in his black and white checkered sheets. Birdie was starting to see more of that junkie Stevie. They were constantly arguing in parking lots and at parties, and I had to sit and wait for her. 2 chicks from the Seattle crowd called Birdie around that time and asked her a million personal questions. They recorded her answers and played them all over Hollywood. Birdie was devastated for about 1 day until a car promptly hit the girl who was the main culprit. Karma had been an even bigger bitch than she. One weekend while I was at Birdie's, my dad called her house and told me we had moved. I was like, wait, we moved? Doesn't that require some sort of planning? Some sort of packing? He gave me the new address of where we lived, and I thought, what about my stuff? Who packed it? Where is it? My dad said he would come and get me and drive me to the new place. He pulled up to Birdie's in that big boat of a car, driving very slowly. I don't know whose car it even was, but it wasn't his because he didn't have a car. He drove me about 2 miles per hour over to a neighborhood in Woodland Hills, a few blocks from the community college I was attending. I was quite happy to be so close to my school because I could actually walk there when the next semester started instead of taking a bus. The new place appeared to be in a relatively nice area, until we pulled up to the house where we were to stay. It was the crappy house on the block. Dead lawn, old cars outside, 2 Rottweilers barking. I thought, dude, are we that house? The one white trash house that ruins the rest of the neighborhood? Great. We entered the place and a bunch of random people were sitting around, and my dad started introducing me to them. This is Richard. He does construction, and that is Terry. She's a prostitute, but yeah, she's a really nice person. I stiffened. Yeah, those 2 guys live in the back. This guy lives in the other room. She lives down the hall. It was as if we lived in a halfway house. I knew the 2 young guys in back were dealing drugs. I forgot how I knew it was so obvious, but I remember being concerned that there would be a raid and that I would be stuck in the middle of it. My dad and Deborah shared one room, and then there was the clencher. I had to sleep in a makeshift closet. It was big for a closet, but I was pissed. My dad told me that I could make some extra money if I ran errands for Terry the hooker. I was hurt that he felt comfortable letting me be around her, and I prayed he wasn't trying to get me to be a protege or something. He treated me like a whore who could be offered up to anyone as it was. He tried to make it sound like she was a good person. She just did that as a job, which I'm sure she probably was. But still, she actually did give me $20 to go to the phone company and get her phone line turned on. I probably spent it on Jim Beam. And I recall Richard, the construction worker, giving me a shot of tequila from the freezer. I felt more and more uncomfortable as my dad partied with all of the people. I didn't feel safe there. Somehow my dad and Deborah got my car fixed again. I didn't know how they paid for it because neither of them had jobs. But I was relieved. My dad needed to use it straight away, and I let him. When he brought it back, I saw that he left his pot pipe in the ashtray again. I was pissed and said, "You can't use my car anymore." I couldn't believe how irresponsible he was as an adult, let alone a father. The deadline for the next semester's enrollment came, and I asked him if he had paid it for me. He said, "Nope, sorry. Couldn't do it. If you would have let me use your car that one day and just walk to school, I could have had the money to pay for it." In my journal, I wrote, "Did I tell you how my dad was ruining my car? He would insist on using it. Where was he when I had to raise the money to buy it? He wasn't even around. I figured if he'd at least pay for me to go to school, then maybe it would be worth it. I should have known he couldn't pay for it. How would he get the money anyway? I thought that maybe he would somehow. But when he told me he wasn't, I got up and started to leave. I felt like I was going to break down. School was like the last thing, the only thing that was normal in my life. I was depending on that little shred of light. He wanted to know when I was coming back because he needed to use my car. Can you believe that? Well, I went to my grandma's to cool off, and then I went back. When I first pulled up, he said he was real worried and all this sugary crap. I ignored him. He said, "What, are you never going to talk to me again?" I said I didn't feel like arguing and proceeded to make trips back and forth, filling my car with my belongings. Deborah tried talking to me throughout the whole thing. I was polite to her. I said, "Hey, it's all right. I shouldn't be living off anyone anyway. I shouldn't be waiting for someone else to pay for my school. I should get up and do it myself." She gave me a $10 bill that she kept for emergencies. It was evening time and the sun was setting, and we were out on our white trash driveway in the golden light. Deborah tried to explain in her patient, soft voice how bad my dad's financial situation had been, but I stopped her and said, "Okay, fine. But he shouldn't have waited until the last minute to tell me he couldn't pay for my schooling. Now it's past the deadline to enroll. If he would have given me notice, I could have hustled it somehow, and now it's too late for that." Then I turned and mentioned to my dad that it had been light years since he fed me. He said, "Oh, why don't you go hustle the money then, since you're so starving?" Mimicking me. I felt kind of embarrassed. My blood was boiling, but I pushed the anger back. I told him in an even tone that I was trying to live with it because it was not as important as school. He said, "Well, I expect you to come back." "No," I said, looking in his eyes. "You expect my car to come back." I drove away and never returned.